All right, hey everyone. Soft Drink here. Welcome to STG Weekly episode number 74. We're going to be talking about Dodonpachi Dai Ou Jou, Get Hype. Um, so we have quite a bit planned for today. Um, we're going to be running through Prometheus's Black Label run in its entirety, his two all. We're going to be discussing some of the differences with White Label, including a feature most predominantly on the second loop. So we're probably going to show most of Iconoclast's White Label Loop 2 all. And then we are actually also going to be touching on Death Label a little bit since it's short and I had promised you guys HFD and we decided not to do that. So that's going to be in here as well. Which should be pretty interesting. Honestly, I'm not quite sure how to do commentary for that other than just kind of expressing my amazement for it, but it should be interesting regardless. So, with that said, we got our normal staff here. Aquas is here as well, but he's taking a little bit of a backseat for this episode. So, me, Frenetic, Trap was going to be on to express his hate for the game, but he's declined, which is a little bit depressing. And then as guests we have Prometheus himself and Patashu as well to relate
Hello,
some of his
I'm Patashu.
experiences. Patashu, okay. My bad with the pronunciation there.
No problem, everyone gets it wrong.
And Prom, can you say something?
Hey, hi. Sorry. This is me.
Yeah.
It's a bit quiet, I think.
Oh, yeah, you are a little bit quiet. Oh, crap, my air conditioner. Hang on one sec, sorry.
Yeah, so guys, welcome. As you know, Prometheus is of the How to Play Shmups guide, which everyone should read as like their own Bible or Quran or whatever you're into it. And Patashu, we're lucky to have him on as well because he was able to be on the secondary stream at Awesome Games Done Quick, which was really amazing. So big ups to you, Patashu, for spreading the gospel.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing to see.
Thanks. I'm still blown away that I managed to do it because on the day, I stayed up a little too late to watch some of the blindfolded Ocarina of Time run. And on that day, I was completely tired and frazzled and I couldn't do anything right in practice. So the only thing that pulled me through was adrenaline, basically.
It's that was really intense to watch. I mean, it looked like you were kind of right on the edge of the seat there, which was pretty interesting, and people seemed to get pretty into it as well. I mean, you had a very decent audience, and it was just really cool to watch, honestly. So
Yeah, I didn't know what the viewer feedback was like at the time, but apparently I had 20,000 viewers, no pressure, and
Yeah.
apparently they were enjoying the run. So I'm really happy that I got to do it.
yeah, it was definitely quite hype. So yeah, and then we recently had the Washui rebroadcast, which was unbelievable for those who have not seen it. That was completely insane.
Dude, it was completely impossible that run managed to get all the way to Bachi and win.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that was
With all the deaths before. That was
It's
cool.
the absolute definition of clutch.
I enjoyed that.
yeah. Foo, just God right there. The run ever. So if anyone watching here has not seen that, you need to go watch it. It's phenomenal.
We'll have to link it in the description. won't
Yeah, we will. So with this episode, I think a lot of us are very familiar with DOJ already, but I was thinking we'd probably start with just a brief overview of how the game system works. I mean, it's kind of a standard Dodonpachi style chaining system, but it's the first game that has hypers, and those bring a really interesting dimension to the play. So I was thinking it would be great if you guys could maybe start with some introduction to your experience with the game, why it means as much to you as it does. I mean, I know Prometheus, you have a history with Dodonpachi beforehand. Do you mind sharing some of your experiences with this series, or?
Yeah. Sure. So you mean I should introduce the scoring system, right?
I'm sorry, got a little bit ahead of myself there. First, I want just talk about kind of your experience with this game.
Okay.
And I was saying I know you have some history with the Dodonpachi series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started playing the Dodonpachi lots of years ago. I can't even remember anymore when I started. I think it was 2005, maybe. I don't know, maybe earlier. I don't know. But anyway, it's a game of chaining. It's very much an icon of the Danmaku genre because it introduced and kind of improved on mechanics that defined the bullet curtain games afterwards. So two loops with much harder difficulty in second loop. You can access second loop only if you have satisfied the conditions for access. So that's not losing too many lives and chaining enough to have a good chain counter or grabbing bees. That sort of things. You only have to satisfy one of the conditions, and it's a game that takes a lot of learning the stages very precisely, so that you can chain the enemies without having too much dead time between enemies. You have to chain them and not leave more than about 1 second between two enemies, something like that. So keep your chain always active, and you make combos through levels that way. And in Dodonpachi, there's also this thing where the first moment when you lose a life in your game is going to be very important in setting your final score. So the first moment where you lose your life is very important. You have to.
You're dropping out a little bit.
Not bomb actually and survive as far as you can while also chaining. Oh, okay.
We got most of it, don't worry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. I think my connection's not very. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, we got almost everything there.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
So
I guess what I was asking really is like what, because I know that you were, you're an amazing Dodonpachi player, and was the transition from DDP to DOJ, was that just something that you felt came like naturally, or was that like a challenge for you adapting to the hyper system and the changes that brings in terms of playstyle?
Right. Well, definitely a challenge in some ways. It's too very similar at the core, but Dodonpachi Dai Ou Jou is definitely harder. Actually, I remember when I started playing Dodonpachi Dai Ou Jou, I felt that the first stage difficulty for chaining was comparable to the stage 4 in Dodonpachi. Now I can feel a little different because the feeling that you get of the difficulty of the game changes a lot after you've actually memorized the levels and really learned how to play it. But Dai Ou Jou generally is faster, and there are more places where you have difficult tricks to pull off to manage holding your chains. So it has more difficulty that way, but then it's true.
You're cutting out again.
Yeah, you're cutting out again. Okay.
In the game where you'll have a really hard trick to pull off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some very interesting links that we'll talk about a little bit later in DOJ, especially stuff like the stage 3 and 4 chains have some really tricky maneuvers. Okay, well, thank you. I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit about like your personal experience with the game, because I know you have a really big history with the series. So, and then Patashu,
Yeah.
like, what's your involvement with DOJ? I mean, obviously the GDQ thing was amazing, and that was super cool to see, and I'm sure that must have been amazing to be a part of. I've been talking to you in IRC for a while, so I know that you've been playing the game for a while. Is it, what kind of drew you to it, I guess, and how far are you planning to go?
Okay, so about me, what got me into gaming at a very high level, like what was my game for a long time was just Stepmania and some other rhythm games in general. Like the simplicity and flatness and the incredibly high skill ceiling and how visually impressive it looked, these rhythm games, were what drew me and kept me into them. And what I decided to do this year was get back into shmups, because as a kid, I got my ass kicked by these shmups. I had I couldn't get anywhere in them. But the concept of them interested me so much that I kind of beat my head against them for a while before finally giving up. So so this year I was getting like into the iOS shmup ports, getting into some stuff in shmup MAME, getting some scrubby clears and stuff. And so me and Dai Ou Jou, the reason why I like Dai Ou Jou so much is it's kind of like the shmup that a rhythm game player would like the most, I think, because the way the stages work, they're really static, really fixed. Like if you have a route for a stage, then as long as that route is a good route, you can just always do that. And if you make a mistake, you didn't do the route right, like your route was wrong. And the way the bosses work, they all kind of emphasize being able to do like precise little movements and being able to read fast. Like it's just pure technical skill in that sense. So I love the boss designs in this game. And so the reason why I went and did this on the bonus stream at all is because I was kind of like thinking about going to AGDQ anyway, but it kind of felt like hollow to do it without like having something to do at the event, and I was kind of juggling around in my head what I could do, and I was like, hey, I'm getting back into these shmups, maybe I could do that on the bonus stream. So I talked about it with Romscat, and it was fine as long as it was something on hardware, and he wanted 1.0 quality, and I couldn't actually do that until like about a month before the event. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be good enough by then, 3 months or whatever. I'll just practice.
Yeah.
And it only barely got in time.
Wow.
And all the practice right before it was what allowed me to do it, because a couple of things that I didn't die to in the run I actually did on the bonus stream were because I had found a new way to be more consistent just before the run.
Well, that's a pretty awesome story, actually. I didn't realize you were just getting into it like recently. And it's interesting that you mentioned the connection with rhythm games. It's something I've kind of noticed as well. There's kind of a right and wrong way to play Dodonpachi games. I mean, there's kind of like it's a very particular sort of puzzle. Like there's a way you're supposed to maneuver. There's a way you're supposed to chain.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can see how that connects to, there's a way you're supposed to hit these patterns of notes, that kind of thing. I play 2DX myself, so I'm
pattern reading.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the pattern reading, the speed, and also the combo. If you make one single mistake, it kind of breaks the whole performance. Is definitely a similarity between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and I was going to say it even, that has a lot to do with Prometheus's analogy, which I think is one of the most interesting analogies about this genre. Playing these games well is very much like studying and playing a piece of music. So I definitely I've read Full Extent of the Jam many times, and I think that analogy really stands out as like I think it's right on the mark, especially for memo games.
And Prometheus, I think that's such a good. I'm a musician as well. I play in a community college band and also in a rock band earlier this past year. To really study these games and kind of start at the difficult parts and play them slow, or do them over and over, is just so invaluable, And I think this is how the game should be approached, like pieces of music.
Yeah.
And
virtuosity.
This guide I'm talking about, this comparison is Prometheus wrote a large and awesome document called Full Extent of the Jam, which is basically a guide to playing shooting games at a high level, and it's linked everywhere on the forum, and it's just really awesome. It's a great read. And
it's a great guide for getting better too. You don't necessarily have to be an expert.
Yeah, it's good at any level. I mean, I read it when I first started learning to play these games, and I still look at it from time to time. It's it's basically an honor to have you on the show. I mean, that's DOJ is one of the first games that I started playing, and I started playing it kind of based on the ideas of that guide. So it's really pretty cool to kind of come full circle with it like this, and now be seeing it in this way.
So I put a link for you guys in the chat.
I missed some.
What's up?
Prometheus,
Yeah,
did you
wait.
say something?
I'm getting no sound at some points, yeah. So I can't hear everything you're saying, but yeah, I'm still here. But some of the words that sometimes I get no sound, yeah, for like a few seconds. I don't know why, but that's okay. I keep going like this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's what's happening on our end from you as well. Unfortunately. So
Yeah, Prometheus is in France
Yeah.
while we're here.
Yeah,
I'm in the States,
Yeah.
Patashu.
Australia, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so please bear with us. We're a truly international show, and we're gonna have things like that. So
we're doing our best here. So
uh,
I guess I'll just say a little bit about my involvement with the game, and then let's go into it. Like I said, it's one of the first games that I started playing seriously. This was the first game that I ever emulated. Actually, I saw YouTube videos of it. I'm like, wow, this looks so cool. Started playing White Label in MAME in my freshman year at school here, UCLA. And I completely fell in love with the game. And then I started. It's just so brutal, and trying to learn to play shooting games well with a game like this, it's pretty interesting.
Did you study any replays when you were learning it, or were you just kind of flailing around and dying a lot?
I did, but I was playing AL, and so there aren't really any AL replays, and some of the strategies for that ship type are completely different because the shot width is so narrow. So I was definitely watching replays, but trying to adapt those techniques was a little bit different, I guess I should say. But it was a great experience. I mean, I think that it really, understanding like how to practice chain routes and how to get consistent at the game, I think really helped me develop a good foundation that I was able to build off of as I continued exploring the genre. I haven't cleared White Label. I have one alt Black Label, and I'd love to loop it at some point. I actually made the loop once on arcade hardware with 3 lives in stock, and because I could not read Japanese at the time, I ended up rejecting
You have
it.
to push. You have to press left once first.
I know.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so bad. It was so bad.
I was there at the meet. That was Arcade Games meet, right?
Yeah, that was arcade games meet.
Because I remember there was a frantic voice coming from Soft Drink, and I was like, I don't know, I can't read Japanese. And everyone was like, I can't read Japanese either. I'm like,
Yeah, nobody knew what to do.
And then we assumed like, oh, of course you want to go to the second loop. Just press it would default like that, right?
It was so bad. So
Fun fact, I think my run at the bonus stream would have made the loop because I missed the B in stage 3, but I'm pretty sure I got them all and lived through the stage part in stage 4, but when I got up, I unplugged the Xbox, so we'll never know.
Goes to show, just wait for the screen and see.
Wait for the screen
Yeah.
first. Yeah, don't celebrate.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But great job. Yeah,
It was funny, I don't know.
Should we get into the replay now? Like,
Yeah,
because
I
we got a lot
let's
to
just
cover?
really quickly talk about the system. We do have a lot to cover, and I think we'll just very briefly discuss this. So basically, for those who have not played a Dodonpachi game before, you have kind of 2 main weapons on your ship. You have a wider spread shot, machine gun type fire, and you have a focused laser. And when you're lasering, you move more slowly. Whenever you destroy an enemy, you have a meter that builds up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and that's your chain gauge, basically. If you then kill another enemy or destroy a part of an enemy before that gauge depletes, you will gain 1 hit, and some points will be added to a hidden counter called the get point counter, which will drop back to 0 when you drop your chain. And you drop a chain simply by not killing another enemy before that gauge depletes. So the key premise of the game is then managing your movement across the screen and the rate at which you kill enemies or destroy different portions of them in order to keep that gauge full constantly and continue building chain hits and get point values throughout the course of the stage. And in Dai Ou Jou, it's possible to do this for the entire length of all of the stages in Black Label, and technically in White Label as well, but it's virtually impossible to do it in Stage 3.
And there are some other things that give you combo meter,
Yes.
besides just killing enemies. If you're holding a laser on an enemy, so long as the laser is uninterrupted, then your chain cannot end, it just barely doesn't drain completely. And there's actually a caveat to that, which is that if you pick up a power-up while you're lasering something, and it upgrades your laser, the laser resets, and this can break your combo in 1-1 and 1-2.
Unless you're within like 1.5 ship
Yeah.
lengths of the enemy, in which
You have to
case
be really
it
close.
resets quickly enough that the chain doesn't quite fall all the way. Think of the chain counter when you're lasering stays basically right above minimum, so you have just the tiniest fraction of a second to get over to another enemy to continue the chain.
And in addition to that, there are two more things that will give you combo meter in this game. That is uncovering a bee with your laser, not picking it up, but uncovering it. And when you activate a hyper, that will also give you combo meter.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The activation gives you meter. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, and then the hyper system works. It's a little bit confusing to explain. Essentially, as you kill enemies and build chains and collect bees, there's another gauge in Dai Ou Jou. It's pink, and it's to the right of the kind of large info box in the upper left. And as that builds up, when it hits the top, it'll drop this little metal thing, and if you collect that, you'll get a hyper. What the hyper does is essentially it increases your shot power, increases the rate at which you gain hits, decreases the rate at which the chain counter drops, and like Patashu was saying, when you activate it, it gives you a brief. It resets the chain counter so it can allow you to extend chains for longer, depending on where and how you use it. It also increases the rank of the game, and that's one of the fundamental differences between Black Label and White Label. The Dai Ou Jou has something of a rank system. My understanding of it is, and I could be wrong about this, that there are essentially two parameters that the rank influences. There's bullet speed and bullet density. The bullet speed increases drastically whenever you use a hyper, and when the hyper ends, when its duration expires, the bullet speed is mostly lowered, but not quite all the way. And the bullet density is elevated kind of consistently over the course of the game as you use more and more hypers.
My understanding of how hyper rank works is that every time you use a hyper rank goes up by 1. If you bomb while you're hypering, only while you're hypering, then you lose 3 hyper ranks. And if you die, you lose 3/4 of your hyper rank. And the easiest way to tell, for me, that hyper rank does something outside of a hyper is the stage 1-5 boss's first attack with the semi-aimed blue lasers and the blue circle spreads. Because if you go into that attack with a lot of hyper rank, you can do the pattern on it that super players use, where you go side to side every shot. But if your hyper rank is low because you've died recently, then it's a lot slower and the pattern doesn't work anymore. The lasers get in your way.
Jamers brought up a good point in chat here. Using shot on most enemies will give you more chain meter than using laser. As we said earlier, laser just barely keeps it over the minimum. So it's kind of an important thing to keep in mind.
Oh, I didn't know that killing enemies with laser gave you less chain meter.
I don't think it matters much for popcorn, but I'm not 100% sure how that would apply.
I don't think it's that way. I think it's when for the popcorn enemies, if you kill them with a shot, you get more hyper gauge, but you don't get more hits for killing them with the proper weapon. For the big enemies, you want to kill them with laser so that you can get the hits from the laser. But
I think we're talking about combo meter, not combo amount.
Anyway,
okay.
It's important to use shot when you're... Basically, it's important to use shot on smaller enemies and laser on larger ones is kind of the gist of it. And that's sort of the very basic way that the system works. And there's a lot of caveats to it. Like, the amount of... When you pick up a hidden bee, the amount of hyper gauge that you will gain from picking up the bee is proportional to your current number of hits. So if you have I forget what the exact values are more. If you have less than 20, you don't get anything. If you have between 20 and 100, you get, 10% or something. And then if you have over 200, you get 30% of your hyper gauge, of one hyper gauge is filled by picking up one bee.
Also, if you're in a hyper, then collecting a bee gives you no additional hyper meter. So that's why you'll see people delay getting bees when they're in a hyper if they possibly can. So there's like 3 different reasons why you delay getting bees, which is kind of cool. The third one being they give more score the better your combo is right now.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is picking up bees multiplies your current number of hits by the value of the bees at that point in time, which starts off at 1,000, and I believe it doubles every stage that you manage to get bee perfect, which will no, it just increases by 1,000, right? It goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just.
I think it's the 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll get into that as we go a little bit further in, but that's the very gist of it, and a lot of the game comes from managing your chains throughout the stages. And learning patterns which will allow you to have hypers at points where you need them to maximize your points and or to maximize your survival abilities. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the replay. So hang on, let's queue up here. All right, is everyone queued up?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then play in 3, 2, 1, go. This footage, by the way, is from the Special Demonstrations number 2, presented by Icarus. So, shout out to him for being awesome. So, Prom, do you have any comments that you want to start out with about this run, or should we just get straight into kind of discussion of the route? Okay then. So kind of this opening part of stage 1, his main objective is going to be to try to delay a lot of these kills so that he can maintain a chain of about 170 or 180 going into this turret here, and he's able to get a hyper early like that in Black Label. The timings are different between Black Label and White Label, but by picking up those bees when he did, he's able to have a very high chain already at this early stage. He's actually killing things at the top of the screen right now. The hitboxes in DOJ are projected a little bit down onto the screen. Enemies, as they're entering, can be hit, and you can use that to maintain chain off of things which are technically off the edge of the screen.
We should talk about the laser Aura too, how he's using that. Yeah.
So around the body of your ship, when you're lasering, you'll notice there's kind of like this like halo or aura, and that's not just a decorative thing that looks really awesome. It also actually helps you. It does damage to enemies, and it helps you build meter faster. There's a lot of areas where aura-ing certain enemies will give you a lot more hyper meter or combo gauge. That you would not otherwise be able to get. And so a lot of the opening part of this stage and the optimization for it in on using that aura to build your hypers more quickly to get more hits and more chain throughout the course of the stage.
So anytime you kill something with Aura instead of a different part of your weapon, that's superior, right?
That's what?
It's superior to kill things with your Aura whenever possible, because it gives you more hyper meter, right? Is that always true?
That's my understanding of it. Oh, whoops, my bad. I didn't have the sound up. Sorry, guys.
Okay. And you can also use the hyper arrow on things that are invincible to get meter, even when you can't kill them.
Yes.
Let's talk about the boss now. What is he doing?
What's he doing against the boss? This is kind of interesting. He's hypering right away. He's hypering right away to build up the extra hypers. So you'll notice that his hyper gauge is increased 2 full levels, and now he's going to try to kill this weapon pod as it's spinning around the body of the boss. That's a secret trick against this boss in both White Label and Black Label. Killing the arm pods when they're spinning around will have them both drop hypers. So by doing it this way, he's able to get 4 full hypers out of the Stage 1 boss, which is the optimal setup going into Stage 2.
This is insanely risky doing it like this, though.
Yes.
Like, if you're a new player to the game and you want to get the secret hypers, just damage the boss until he's about to die, then do it, and then kill him before he can start shooting again.
Yeah, absolutely. Those patterns, once he loses his side pods, are incredibly dangerous, especially if you're hypering, especially if you've been hypering for score and already jacked up the rank a little bit. So, this early part of Stage 2 is a lot just about knowing your positioning and linking. There's certain enemies that you just have to know are going to come
Those
out
turrets in the top left, they can't continue your meter until they've scrolled fully onto screen. That's broken my chain a lot of times.
Oh, is that true? I've always wondered
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
true. And right here, you're up against the right side of the wall, and that keeps your chain going. You just have to trust that it works.
Yeah, it's a weird trick, and there's also situations there where with certain ship types you should be shooting instead of like rapid firing instead of lasering, and just trust that it'll keep your chain going. There are enemies there that will be hit even if you can't actually see them. So,
Uh-oh, Prometheus has dropped out in the call.
oh shit, let me re-add him.
Okay.
Prometheus is going to be stepping out because he's just having too many problems.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no problem. We'll take
Oh,
over.
that's
I believe
a
that will be wise.
Alright, let's talk about that stalling trick here. So there are some tanks over in the top right corner. We're going to use those to chain onto the mid-boss. So
Yeah.
don't kill them.
And you actually don't need to hyper here at all. If you kill the 3 tanks, then the power-up carrier, and then the 2
so Prometheus
tanks,
actually
you
made a
can...
mistake.
Yeah, you
You
can
killed the
stall
tanks
straight
too
in
early.
here.
And if you're a new player, you can make this section easier by stalling before killing each of the big flyers in that section, and you get even more time to do the tanks at the top right corner last. So you can actually make that section very consistent if you're a new player by stalling.
Yeah, yeah. The this part here, his chain drop is actually a big mistake.
Yeah, he lost all the points from the
This-
stage basically.
This section of the stage is basically the whole point of stage 2 is to build up your carry all your hypers to this end part of the stage, build up a big chain and have 4 or 5 hypers to this end section, and then release it all at once and get tons and tons of hits and tons of points from it. You
You should end with about 2,300 hits, and you can get some extra hits in a stage if you leave buildings alive to AR them at the bottom of the stage.
For
Those
some
are the main
examples of
tricks.
that, go see the Fufufu play we were talking about earlier. He does that extensively in both loops, I believe.
Yes, and HFD's run of this game also does that. So you
Yeah.
can watch him too.
HFD's run, I'm just gonna... You should all watch it. It's amazing.
Yeah, 3.5 billion points. It's really good.
It's amazing.
Okay, so why does he hyper the boss? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so he hypers the boss both to get more hits against the boss, which will give you more points during the intermission. It'll basically the number of hits you have is multiplied by a fixed value for each of the stage bosses, gives you more points. It also built up a hyper, and actually that boss is often easier to fight if you have hyper, at least in my experience.
So you got your hyper back by hypering that boss and fighting him well.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting dynamic with him. And like I said, I've noticed that if you hyper him, he actually tends to get easier, and a lot of that, in my experience, has to do with how the bullets work. Those kind of stick bullets in the earlier phase, they tend to persist on the screen for a very long time, unless you're hypering, and if you're hypering, they fly off quite quickly. So you can actually sometimes make the fight easier on yourself with a well-timed hyper and good reaction.
Okay.
Plus, it'll just kill him faster, so if you can deal with the increased bullet speed, since he is actually a very difficult boss, a big wall for players a lot of the time. I remember I struggled with him for a very long time.
Oh yeah, he's great to practice on because his patterns emphasize control over where you are really finely.
So here, is he going to go for the... Yeah, he's going for the chain
Yeah, he
through.
does. That's right. This is really silly to do, but
So this
it's the
is-
only way to chain it in Black Label.
Incredibly tricky trick, incredibly hard to execute properly, and he does it excellently here. Basically what you want to do is delay killing that large battleship until it's already almost all the way off the screen, and then by timing your hyper correctly, going into the mid-boss and destroying the mid-boss parts in a specific order and getting it to drop those little orbs which are shooting bullets at him, he's able to then carry that into the popcorn rush in the next part of the stage.
And this only works in Black Label, because in White Label it doesn't drop the mines like that.
Yeah, actually, I found out just the other day that it is possible to do in White Label. It's just virtually impossible. Like, it's
Right.
basically tool assist tier, like, only. You have to have incredibly precise hyper timings, which would probably mess up the rest of your run if you were to set up for them properly. So,
Yeah, this is basically Black Label only
yeah.
for all humans. So let's talk about this section. This section is where a new players to this game who are just playing for survival go to die because the popcorn shoots such fixed streams of bullets that if you're not on the right side of the screen already, you have to bomb or die. But it's so consistent that if you know where everything is going to be, you can just develop a very simple route. Like, you can even do this just by thinking about how you die.
Yeah.
So,
And the way that the popcorn shoot can be very disorienting the first few times that you go through the level, but once you kind of wrap your head around it, it actually works quite well. That second half of the stage, though, is very tricky, and it's definitely a wall for beginning players, for sure.
but don't despair because it can be incredibly consistent. Like, once you learn it, it's like the easiest part of the game, pretty much.
And now the stage 3 boss.
Hooray! So everyone loves the final attack of this boss, but what most people don't know is that there are actually patterns to it that you can use to make it more consistent. So the way the final attack works is there's a red spiral that starts at a random orientation, but it flips every 3 shots, so you know where it's going to be at all future positions. Because what makes the pattern actually hard is the gun pods that chase you and force you to be moving in one direction or get trapped.
Yeah.
But since you know where the red spiral is going to be in advance, you just have to think about where you want to be streaming the blue pods. Streaming means moving very slowly in one direction. And if you do that, then you only have to look at the blue bullets that are forming interlocking spirals, and you don't have to look at anything else, and that makes the pattern super easy. So just think about what red spiral configurations lead to what direction you have to go in, and you'll be fine. Like, ProMeTheus just kind of man-moded it and just went for whatever bullets were in his way, but I only recommend that if you're like insanely good at the game and you can just think about bullets with no effort. If you're a new player, you really need to come up with strategies for the different red spiral starting positions, or just hyper or bomb it, which is what most people will just do, and it's fine if you're just going for survival.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn it, then it is possible.
And that pattern is also one of the most visible differences between White Label and Black Label. There's a lot of small changes, but that pattern in particular was completely altered. In Black Label, it has all those smaller bullets that come out. In White Label, you only see the large sets of interlocking blue bullets. Oh, and now stage 4.
Yeah, so he's being incredibly risky in stage 4. I don't know if he's just so confident and it doesn't matter, but he like goes through bullets like twice in this opening part, and you don't have to do that to do this route. It's not dangerous.
Yeah, these this coming link here is also a very, very tricky section. In fact, this whole kind of second half of stage 4 chain is quite difficult to do.
He now has to stall intensely to have enough stuff to chain on.
Yeah. And he's, I think, going to do it with no hypers as well for maximum
That's right,
score.
you don't hyper here.
So there's essentially 2 ways to chain this section. One uses a hyper and one doesn't. And what you see right now is the non-hyper version. So one of the interesting things about this section is these trams that come through, you actually have to kill the tanks on top of them before their hitbox will activate. So you'll notice that he's often delaying killing those tanks on top of them, or killing one and then dropping down and then killing the other and then lasering the tram, in order to kind of delay that kill and get him more time to react. So here, taking out each of those tanks individually so that he can bridge the chain into this next section.
And I just want to say that if you're a survival player, you can kind of copy the route he did for that section and just remove all the scoring tricks, and it's a pretty good survival route.
Yeah.
If you just take out all the dangerous stuff.
That's
another route.
It's a tricky section for survival, but it can be simplified a lot simply by doing a lot of kind of back and forth.
Again, it's static, it's consistent. This is the kind of game where you can just learn a route and always do it. So just copy super players whenever you're struggling, and you'll be good. So let's talk about the mid boss. This is really hard.
Basically, what he wants to do here is kill the center without bombing after destroying both of the sides in order to get it to drop a 1-up. Hypering is fine, but he has to not use a bomb on the main section. You can actually bomb the sides, but it's risky to do because if you damage or destroy the middle with the bomb, it can invalidate getting the 1-up.
So he had to delay that kill for as long as possible so he could link his laser onto the big doors at the back, otherwise he would lose his combo.
Which is the other reason that he was hypering, because it's much easier to maintain that link if you're hypering, as opposed to being very, very, very difficult to do if you don't delay it long enough and you're not hypering after killing it. So this section here is also quite tricky.
The rail turrets are random, but everything else is fixed.
Yeah, the popcorn locations are fixed. I actually only found out about that very recently myself, so I need to go back and learn that section. I always struggled with it extensively. And he's also going to go for the trick against the stage 4 boss here.
The hyper trick.
Yeah, so the second and third phases of this boss, if you use a hyper against them with particular positioning on some of its drones, you can aura so many targets at once if you get the right configuration, that you're able to build your hyper meter incredibly fast, to the point
yes, there
where
are two
you can
configurations. There's the
spend-
8-way configuration and the triple free configuration. And you need a triple free configuration, and it's random, so you just have to pray that you get it.
Yeah.
Because you might not ever get it. This
Yeah.
pattern he's doing right now is really tough until you realize that how you should be doing it is you'd always be going for the closest, simplest gap whenever you can. Like, it's kind of hard to explain. You just have to, like, think about what you're doing for a long time.
Yeah. This right here, he got the 333, and you'll notice that he's sitting directly on top of them, and then right above them and auraing. He's hitting as many of them as he can with his aura for as long as possible. And notice that he's already built 3 full hypers. He's going to build a full 5 by the end of the stage here. Again, just abusing this auraing as much as possible, and like we said earlier, by using that aura, he's able to build his hyper meter more quickly. And since there's so many targets that he is auraing at the same time, his hypers are building at a massively increased rate. Now, early stage 5, he's going to try to grab all of those hypers as quickly as possible on the upper left. It's kind of an interesting little move up there. And then hyper immediately come down and start the chaining on the main section.
Getting all those hypers at the start is actually very safe, by the way. Even though it looks scary, you just have to line yourself up.
Yeah. It takes a few tries to get it right, though.
But then you'll never forget it.
Yeah. So stage 5, the chaining patterns for stage 5 are actually relatively simple. There are a couple links with the mid-bosses that can be tricky, like this section coming up into the first mid-boss. But for the most part, there's so many targets on the stage that the real difficulty just comes from surviving. Provided you can do that for long enough, you're basically guaranteed to get a rather high chain, and the rest of it is just finesse and practice, from my understanding.
So I use a sound cue for stalling there. Like, there's a sound cue in the music. You can use like the wobbling of the melody.
Oh,
so
to time the hyper?
not to time the hyper, but to time when the popcorn's about to run out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and manipulating those popcorn is the key part of that link, for sure.
Right. You need them to be dying a bit slowly so you can get the B and then wait and laser the boss.
Solinus, this is ProMeTheus, who was one of our commentators as well, but he has sadly dropped out due to connection issues. We miss you. This honeycomb section is brutal, and I believe ProMeTheus is going to go for the trick here where,
he
where
goes
he
for the
leaves it
scoring
alive.
trick.
Yeah, so just like in stage 2, you can leave targets alive here as they're dropping off the bottom edge of the screen, and they will be invincible, so you can just chain hits off of them endlessly. So you'll see he's not damaging that last beat. He's going to go up and around it. It's incredibly hard to do. And then throughout the entire mid-boss fight, he's just going to get free hits off of it.
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So I want to say that for survival play, this is basically the culmination of what learning Dai Ou Jou is about, because it's incredibly fixed and static, and subtle movements will throw your route off, but if your route is good, you can always do the same thing here, just like in any other part of Dai Ou Jou. This is actually a really cool section for survival play, not just for scoring.
What, the honeycomb or just stage 5?
Yeah, the
in
honeycomb
general?
section.
Yeah.
Stage 5 in general too, but the honeycomb section in particular.
Yeah. The honeycomb is really an interesting part. It's brutally difficult, and then you start to develop a feel for it, and once you do, it just becomes a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
this mid-boss, the general way to do it is exactly what you saw here. Using those hypers as he's shooting out his small drones allows you to quick kill them using your invincibility. It's not only safe, but it also lets you carry the chain through into this next portion much more readily.
The drones control you. They can go off screen and shoot you from behind. That's
Yeah.
killed me before.
And they're really good at manipulating the screen space. They shoot 2 or 3 lines which can actually trap you into like a little tiny box if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So it's important to take them out as quickly as possible. So it's actually useful there to hyper even if you're not playing for score. It's one of the safer ways of dealing with that mid boss.
Right. So this part of the level is pretty straightforward, really. Like, there's just so much stuff that coming up with the route is not too difficult.
It's mostly just dealing with everything on the screen because it's a very difficult section. And I mean, even the popcorn at this point are shooting essentially solid walls of bullets. So you have to be very conscious of how you're directing enemy fire by bullet hurting or cutting back at all times. And you'll notice there's a lot of macro dodging on certain enemies as well. Like those large fixed kind of spider turret looking things. It's often helpful to macro those as opposed to trying to weave through them.
Alright. Here are the final flyers. They're
Yeah.
pretty annoying to deal with because their attacks semi-randomized.
And they always weave into each other in ways that just seem designed to kill you. It's like...
It breaks your brain because the bullets, like, they have really weird gaps.
Yeah, and they have funky acceleration on them too. So.
Yeah. Alright, 1-5 boss.
Yeah.
So here's the loop I talked about before. You can do it only on high hyper rank. If your hyper rank is low, you have to find a different strat. But it's just really, really simple. You can't die doing this.
What loop?
If your hyper rank is high, stage 1-5 boss's first attack, you just go left, right, left, right, left, right, and there's always a convenient gap, and the lasers never hit you.
Oh.
It's very easy. But only if your hyper rank is high. And here you just need to be careful to always go into the blue gaps that are closest to you and not try and do anything crazy or lose track of where the red honeycombs are.
Mm-hmm.
And this pattern right now is absolutely hypnotic and the gaps just feel completely random. Do you have any tips for it?
Which? The red lines with the blue dots?
The red lines, yeah.
Yeah, that, I don't really have any tips for it.
What I've noticed is that people tend to go to like the bottom left corner and like kind of weave in and out at certain points, so
Yeah,
maybe
I've
there's
also
a...
seen bottom center, but generally staying in the bottom and just being acutely aware of where those gaps are tends to be a viable strategy.
And for some reason going to the right seems suicidal in that pattern, like it must be asymmetrical somehow. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, hard body, we often use the terms macro and micro dodging. Micro dodging is essentially dodging within a pattern, so like dodging individual bullets as part of a larger pattern. Whereas macro dodging is dodging an entire pattern all at once. And there was my mistake right there. Never end a run that way. Always go left.
By the way, before we move on to it, the 1-5 boss's final attack with the slow-moving red and blue bullets, the only thing you need to do is have a route and always be looking ahead at least one string, so you're thinking about where the next gap is going to be. If you do that, it's pretty slow, pretty manageable, it's a lot of fun. It's like my favorite pattern probably to dodge in the whole game.
Yeah, it's an interesting pattern, that's for sure. I hadn't thought of it that way, though.
You just have to not get caught up in dodging a gap when you're too close to the edge of the screen. You don't have any room anymore, so you always need to be thinking one gap ahead.
Yeah, and you need to keep yourself mobile for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about Loop 2. So what's changed in Black Label?
Well, Black Label, it doesn't take away your lives anymore. So in White Label, when you loop, it actually takes away all of your spare lives, reducing you to no stop going into stage 1. And then in order to regain those lives, you have to no-miss the stages.
Isn't it no miss or no bomb?
It could be.
I'm pretty sure that's a requirement.
Yeah.
And another thing that changes in Loop 2 is, doesn't the chaining become more lenient in both versions?
Yes, the chaining becomes substantially more lenient in both versions.
So you don't have to try as hard, which is good, because there's a ton of bullets everywhere.
Yeah, the game difficulty increases massively. In fact, in general, there's twice as many bullets from most attacks. And often there'll be twice as many bullets with offset acceleration, for example. So like some patterns will come fast and others will go slow. Anyway, that
Stage 1 isn't so bad though, because you just have to memorize where all the popcorn are coming from, so you're on the right side of the screen for them.
Yeah.
I don't know how much harder it is for scoring though.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself. I've never actually made it to stage to
We need Prometheus to come back and tell us
Yeah.
about scoring in Loop 2.
So you notice these boss patterns are substantially more difficult, and this is actually much easier than in White Label. The White Label patterns for this boss are absolutely apeshit. And the safe way to deal with it in White Label, as demonstrated in the replay that we restreamed from Washui by Fufu, and we'll probably see it in Iconoclast run as well, is actually to quick kill it by simply hoarding your hypers through the first stage.
So Prometheus actually did the hyper trick on the boss again,
Yeah.
and you could see how insanely scary the patterns would be if he left that alive any longer. So you don't want to do that and leave him alive for sure.
And he did it kind of the safe way that we were talking about earlier, where you trigger that drop right as you're about to kill the
Yeah,
boss,
that's how
and
you
then
meant to
you
do it.
just finish it off.
So here you
without
can notice
having
that
a
he doesn't have to stall at all because the chaining time is so lenient now. You can just
Yeah.
very aggressively kill stuff, which is good because they want to kill you just as badly. And that tank died early because if you're off to, I believe, the left side, then you actually shoot past the tank while it's still meant to be invincible and kill it early. That
Yeah.
will break your chain on loop 1, but here it's fine to do. So we
Yeah.
did it so we didn't have to worry about the bullets.
I've noticed that myself.
I don't know if it's a bug or intended. It feels kind of weird because it's not like you AOR it. You actually bypass the invincibility it's meant to have.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels really strange, and when it happens the first couple times, you will not have any idea what the hell. Just
Yeah,
happened.
that's been my experience of like getting the laser upgrade, removing your combo and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Prometheus dropped his combo here because the bullets caught him off guard, unfortunately.
Yeah. And
So he
and-
messed up both stage 2s.
Yeah, which is disappointing
I
because
say?
they're actually very profitable stages both times around.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not an easy stage to do for score, and in Loop 2 especially, since there's just so much more shit on the screen, you know, it's just much more.
So when the mid boss of the stage shoots all those blue lines, is the trick staying still and then lightly tapping it as lightly as possible? Is that how you stay alive in it?
That would be my guess. That seems to be the strategy. And if you look at similar patterns from Cave, like in Wuxi 1 Ultra Mode, the second or third pattern from the Stage 1 boss, that has a similar tactic of trapping you with lots of fast-moving lines, and that is the way to deal with it. Just stay still, and then just have very small taps.
So this is basically the same thing as Loop 1. Everything is aimed or quantized and aimed, so you just have to make sure you're always ahead of the bullets and not getting trapped behind things. Very static.
So, some interesting points are coming up in chat right now that we were gonna probably talk about when we moved over to White Label. Namely, in White Label, you have an interesting dynamic where you suicide often to build hyper gauge. So, in Black Label,
Maybe we
you
should start
have...
part of 1.5 then, in the White Label, so we can do the suicides, right?
Yeah, I was gonna start it at 1.5 and show the loop was the plan. To show kind of some of the differences. And
Oh,
maybe-
this is really scary for you, Hyper. Don't do
Yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah.
shit. So this boss got nerfed in Black Label, right? Is even harder in White Label.
Which boss?
The Stage 2 boss. In White Label, his last pattern doesn't have slowdown.
Yeah. In White Label, that boss does not have slowdown, and it's terrifying.
It's pretty fucking hard. It's a relief when you saw the Black Label and you're like, oh, this is easy now. Thank God.
Yeah.
That was nice. By the way, a trick we didn't talk about is that at the start of Stage 3, if you kill the first battleship very fast with like your hyper laser and an aurora, a second battleship comes. And
if
you
you
kill the
kill
second
that-
battleship really fast, a third battleship comes.
Yeah.
HFD does that, but Prometheus does not. So it's like
It-
one of those super high level scoring tricks, really hard to do.
Yeah, it can definitely be hard to execute. You know, it's relatively easy to get one bonus battleship, but getting both of them and doing it consistently without getting yourself killed in the process
Yeah,
can be very
I've only got
difficult.
on one bonus battleship. I'm not going to try for two.
I've made 2 a couple times, but it's dangerous. Like even
Oh, yeah.
even in Loop 1, it's pretty scary.
Scary as
They
hell.
they just vomit so many bullets onto the screen, and the popcorn is kind of the big issue with doing that in my experience,
Yeah.
actually. Because
So we got the mid boss link again. That's a
Yeah.
lot easier than Loop 2, right? Because of the chain leniency.
Yeah. But it's still no mean feat, that's for sure.
Oh,
Let's
quick
see what
killing
else
that flyer before I could even shoot. That was cool.
Yeah, Javers. The
the hyper
2-2
nade.
boss is fucking insane. Yeah, that's just true.
Could be worse, could be death label.
Yeah, it could be Death Label. Hint, hint. Anyway.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
So this
Narrate's saying that getting the second bonus, you do need some good positioning to get aura right away on
Yeah,
those
you need
first
to be
couple
auraing the
ships.
ships, or it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It's really scary, because they can shoot you right away from there.
yeah.
Okay, so the safe spot with the battle station up ahead has changed in Loop 2, hasn't it? There's like a new one, I believe.
He doesn't use it here, which is interesting. I think.
Oh yeah, he doesn't use it.
I think it actually works the same way, but the height is different. In Loop 1, you have to be pretty low, and in Loop 2...
I think you have to be slightly offset to the side.
Yeah,
or
you have to
something.
be a little bit off-center and a little bit up or something.
But it still exists, just be prepared for it to be different. Don't do the same thing again. So, the stage 3 boss got a pretty big upgrade in the second loop. All those
Yes.
patterns are like doubled up and really scary.
Yeah. And like this pattern with the lines now has stuff in between the lines just to fuck with you.
This one's really easy. It's the next ones that are hard as hell.
Yeah. This is the
Oh,
insanity.
God. Ugh. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's really... oh, there's the really hard one.
Yeah.
The doubled up.
Yeah, it's
Loop
doubled up
double
and slowed down on top of itself.
This one, you just need to be a godlike bullet reader to be able to do it. I don't think there's any general tips you can do.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, this is
That
this
is so
insane.
scary.
Solinus, yes, I credit feed through Ketsui. I play a DJ Ketsui record label on my stream on occasion.
Alright, here it is, the final attack.
Yeah, and if you notice the
Don't
speed
feel bad
on
about
this...
hypering and bombing. Yeah, it's faster and it's denser at the same time. So
Now, you'll
Prometheus
notice...
is tearing it up right now.
Yeah,
too.
he's just wrecking this. You'll notice that he's doing everything that he can not to die and not to bomb. And the reason for that is that in Black Label, the maximum bomb bonus is a huge part of your eventual score because it builds on itself over time. Essentially what that is, if you have maximum bombs in your stock and then you pick up another bomb, the game gives you a bonus every frame of a certain number of points. Now, initially, it's not very many, but the more bombs you pick up and the longer you survive with that, the bigger and bigger it becomes. And of course, it only builds if you haven't ever dropped it. And this only happens in Black Label. In White Label, I don't think it ever reaches a level where it becomes particular for. But the maximum bomb bonus actually becomes a very significant factor in your score. So that's a big part of why his routes are all optimized around no miss, no bomb.
Yeah.
And you'll see
He
the
must
same
have
thing in
practiced
HFD's runs.
the Loop 2 Stage 3 boss very hard because he gave an incredibly good showing on that last attack. He
Yeah.
never got trapped and had to go through a red line or got trapped on the wrong side of the gun pods or anything, so I'm sure he's like thought about all the different configurations, the red spirals and everything. Because when you set everything up in advance, like if you know where to move, you only have to look at the interlocking blue spirals, and that makes it like 10 times as easy. Like you just won't get surprised at all.
Yeah. And here you notice that like he's not even lasering. He's just using shot. He has so much time to kill these guys that he's just kind of very relaxedly taking out everything.
Yeah, the chain is going down so slowly right now that you don't have to do as much stuff. It's pretty nice
Talking
because
about
there's so many bullets.
DDP Connect in the chat.
What's DDP Connect?
Oh, so I think this was the Instant Brain, right? So Cave released like a VN Instant Brain, and if you do something in that game, you can unlock Dodonpachi, like a port for Xbox 360.
Yeah.
And it's one of the options is a Connect controller mode.
Oh
so
my
you can
god!
actually play it with Connect.
Okay.
We were talking about unconventional playstyles a few minutes ago,
Oh,
and
that
this
sounds-
came up. It sounds awful.
Oh god.
So here you notice that this pattern is doubled up again, even more difficult to deal with.
So why do you keep the tanks alive there?
The tanks are to chain from the different parts of the mid-boss onto itself. Often if you try to go straight over from the side pod of the mid-boss into the center, you'll actually drop your chain in doing so.
Yeah, there's
even though
actually a gap. Your
Yeah.
laser drops for a moment and you lose your combo. So you need something to chain onto, which is either the bullets or those tanks. You can
Yeah.
just pick which one you want to do.
And you do chain off of the bullet casings, which is pretty funky.
Yeah, because the bullet casings are random. They come at specific timings, but where on the screen is random.
Yeah.
So for survival, it's not too bad once you realize you just have to wait for the bullet casings and then move. but for scoring, you have to react to where they are, which is pretty crazy.
And this end section with those like turrets on rails, man,
this is
that's
nuts.
intense.
Oh god, how did he not get hit there? That is... Like, super players should demonstrate the safest, most consistent gameplay, but sometimes you just have to, like, go for it.
Yeah,
especially in a section that's
out.
random like this, so you can't even plan it entirely in advance. Because again, the rail turrets are random, but the popcorn is fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So that will alter you around.
I believe he's going to try to go for the hyper trick again here.
Alright, excellent.
Or not. I'm wondering if that was a mistake. I'm wondering if he thought he was going to get hit there, and so he hyper...
Yeah, he was reacting to thinking he was going to get hit.
Oh,
like, that pattern has random initial rotation, so...
Yeah.
You have to, like, oh no!
Yeah.
Damn.
This boss
Yeah,
is
those patterns are brutal.
brutal.
Hyper on, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard enough without hyper. With hyper, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
unfortunate mistake.
But he actually ended up with another hyper, and that...
Oh, so he's still going to do it then?
Yeah, he's still going to do it.
Alright, he got the freeze.
That's awesome.
So while you hyper, just when it starts, you're invincible, so you can actually sit on top of the turrets.
Yep. But
Hyper them
then
even
you
closer.
do have to offset yourself before you become vulnerable again,
Yeah.
obviously.
Don't die to them. That would be embarrassing.
Yeah. I may have had that happen. I may or may not be speaking from personal experience right now.
It's okay, I've died to the stage 1 boss by ramming into him.
I've died so many times to stage 1 boss on White Label. Oh god. It's so brutal on White Label.
So, whenever you fill up a hyper, all the bullets on screen cancel. Can you time when the bullet cancels are going to happen if you're very consistent at the hyper
Yes.
trick? Like,
And
it's same thing every time. Okay.
There actually there's some strategies with the stage 4 boss to make it easier, where you will actually see people in some of the earlier phases, like one of the attacks that ProMeTheus died to earlier, you will sometimes see people time hyper refills in that attack, specifically for that reason, because there's a cancel.
Yeah, that's smart.
I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I know I've seen it done. It's really interesting. Just kind of another layer of finesse and consistency that you'd need to do something like that. But
By the way, one quick thing about the first big flyer in this series, you start all the way to the left to guide its pattern to have a certain angle because it's aimed at you, and that way you can slip past it to get the B and continue your chain and stuff. If you don't do that, it'll just get in your way and your chain breaks. So that positioning is important. Yeah, that's how that works. Also, when you're getting the B here and link onto the boss here, delay getting the B, because if you just get it right away, your combo completely fills and you don't have enough time anymore.
you'll notice he pulled out the hyper sitting basically directly on top of the mid-boss. He did that to do some aura damage, not only to basically get himself in a good spot for the boss in terms of rebuilding his hyper, but also to do more damage more quickly to the boss.
You need to time when that mid-boss dies, because when that mid-boss dies, the popcorn comes out at whatever position it was going to be in, and if you're in the wrong position, then your combo just ends, so
it's
you
very
have some
important
ideas of what's going to happen.
to manipulate that boss in order to carry the chain through.
By the way, another thing about that mid-boss is whether it starts on the left side or the right side and dives the opposite side, is it goes in front of you. So if you don't know that, then it feels like RNG. But as soon as you know that, you just have to go to the right side.
Dodge! That was beautiful. That was a
Holy
fun
shit!
cutback.
That was great. Dude, it's absolutely crazy when all the stuff you can do on this part that looks absolutely insane.
Oh, he did it again! He did it again! Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, this section is great for having some clutch dodges and 6 scoring patterns. And then you have to do this.
Yeah.
This is pretty fancy looking.
This
I guess
is
it's not that hard, but
it's actually
it
one of my
looks really
favorite differences between Loop 1 and Loop 2 is to compare that mid-boss's patterns. Because in Loop 1, it looks very, like, ordered and peaceful, and it's all spirals, and it's just very pretty. And then in Loop 2, it's just chaotic, and there's, like, this, these clusters of bullets everywhere, and they're, like, on top of each other, and it just, it really feels more desperate and more aggressive.
You have to be really careful when you're doing your U-shaped bullet herds on the popcorn just before this mid-boss, because if you kind of move out of position, then all of the slow bullets that can linger around the screen will just trap you. So it is a knack to doing it and not getting trapped, for sure.
And you'll notice against that mid-boss, he also runs up after killing all the little drones and point blanks it with his hyper.
Yeah, that's
again,
for the
that's,
AR
that's
again.
for aura damage again to kill it. If you don't do that, it'll start doing its fireball pattern again, most of the time, which can offset your timings and routing depending on exactly where it ends up going. So
and the fireballs don't despawn when you kill them, so don't die to them.
I did that last night. It was evil.
No.
It was true evil.
I should have warned you, man. Stream wasn't loading for me, so I couldn't watch it, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Apparently what's happening is I'm in Australia, and Twitch is linking me to the Singapore server, is what I was told, and the Singapore server's been acting out lately. So, yet another reason why you shouldn't go to Australia if you're a Twitch streamer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's alright. It's not your fault, man. Thanks once again. So that part with the 2 medium flies is really scary because if you don't kill the popcorn, they'll kind of trap you into their pattern and you die. So you need to be really on top of it and do your route as soon as possible. Because if you delay, it just gets turned into a clusterfuck very fast.
And now this part with the end flyers is much scarier in Loot 2 because they're shooting out
much more
so
bullets.
many more bullets, and there's so much. There's the same amount of randomization, but it's layered on top of itself, basically.
Oh,
And now we have.
Unbelievable.
What is this
What a
thing
hot
even
section.
called? Because Koryu is the form right before Hibachi, right?
Isn't it Koryu still?
Oh, is it still Koryu?
It's
I
just,
don't know.
yeah, it's just 2 phases, isn't it? So this attack is completely different in the second loop. There's a different safe spot, which he's doing right now.
And this one is also very different.
I think,
much,
is
much
that one
denser,
rank
obviously.
dependent too? Being able to do that safe spot, do you know?
I'm not sure. I haven't played around too much with the rank myself.
Yeah. This attack is absolute insanity, because... Yeah, that is way too hard. This pattern is not nice either. Wow.
Yeah, and obviously these are all much, much faster this time through.
And you can't even route these patterns, they're random.
Yeah, they...
You just have to be
all-
incredibly good, which is what I like about the boss patterns in this game.
Yeah,
It is teach you how to move correctly.
The boss patterns in this game are fantastic.
Alright, here it comes.
Now this should be interesting. He doesn't have a hyper for the point blank, which you would often see coming up here. Oh, but he's gonna get one because of the bomb. Oh, but he doesn't go for it anyway. Oh, that's an interesting dodge.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he does it like this, and this works too. It's harder though. The point blank version's better. I think maybe he didn't know it yet. Basically, you can just go right up against the boss and ease forward or back, and the pattern completely misses you. It's really great.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as laying on Best Buy food, yeah. Okay, so Needles of Death are evil. And Hibachi.
Nope, not today.
The needles are fucking awful.
Is anyone consistent at that pattern? Do you have any idea?
Not that I've ever seen.
Okay, good. I would be completely afraid for the human race.
Yeah.
That was the case.
Actually, HFD might be. Because he one misses in the 3-5, and it's not to that attack. I think it's to the washing machine. And speaking
So
of
what's the
devil,
trick to going through really fast lines, like in that last attack there?
I
Do
don't
you just
know.
kind of get the hang of timing it after a while?
That would be my guess.
It must be like you're really focused on the hitbox and the timing and everything, and just kind of comes naturally after you practice enough.
But I honestly don't know. I have not practiced this enough to know.
Yeah. So what can you say about the washing machine? How about the fact that he's invincible most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, most people against the washing machine try to essentially bomb and hyper as much as possible. The idea is to stay invincible for as long as you can, make most use of your resources, and then when you die, you build up more hyper. And so the idea is that
He's not invincible when you hyper, right? So you point blank him?
You're invincible when you start the hyper. So you point blank when you start the hyper, you use the aura to do as much damage as possible, and then as the hyper starts to end, you pull back, survive for as long as you can, and then prolong your life for as much as possible to build as much hyper meter as you can. And that way the idea is that you'll build up enough hyper by the time that you die 1 or 2 more times that you can then hyper him at point blank again and do a bunch of damage that way.
Yeah, so just trying to learn is kind of a trap, isn't it? You're really interested in how can I build up as many hypers as possible.
It's I mean, all of the cave TLBs have a lot of interesting tricks like that, though. Anyway,
So I noticed one time he
phenomenal
used the
play
bomb,
there.
he was off to the side, Is there a reason why he didn't bomb the boss and he was bombing to the side instead? Like, was he trying to do something?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
So Jamers is saying Hibachi is not invincible when you die, which is very nice. That's
Oh.
that's for damn sure, because a lot of the cave TLPs are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's only when you bomb and part of hypering.
Actually, I don't even know if I don't think he's invincible during the hyper at all. I think he is invincible
Ah.
briefly when you bomb, and that might be why he's bombing off to the side, because the side bomb might have less invincibility than the laser bomb, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So that's Prometheus' run.
Yeah, that's fantastic play there.
Okay, we're gonna move on, or
Yes, sir. So
Alright.
now let's queue up Iconoclast's white label. Well, we got some mess up here. So I was really interested in showing up just a few parts of this. In particular, I'm going to be showing the stage 3 boss just to show kind of the difference there.
yeah, it's a lot easier in white label. Like, if you want to learn the pattern, learn on white label first, because you can just focus on the red spiral and the streaming, and the blue spirals are easier. And then you can graduate to the black label version. That's how I
Elixir.
would learn it.
Elixir's saying he thinks he's trying to build up a path through the washing machine pattern by bombing to the side, and that actually makes sense
So we can get the hyper?
since the bullets
Ah.
rotate around.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the fight against Hibachi is almost entirely about resource management, from what I can tell. It's mostly about getting there with enough resources to survive long enough to get enough hypers to kill it. So anyway, this is the pattern, and he actually gets through it so quickly you can't really see it in a lot of detail. So I'll just replay it a couple times. But notice how there's only the one row of the larger blue bullets. There's no smaller stuff. And now if we go into the stage 4 open, you'll see one of the other differences in a second probably. Notice that the enemies are already starting to shoot a lot of really thick lines. You see this in Black Label as well, but let's see if I can get to stage 5. In general, the rank in White Label... here, let's just start at stage 5 open. Alright, here we go. Get to 1359. In general, the rank in White Label can be thought of as beginning at a higher value, but capping at a slightly lower one. So the way that I've had it explained to me, which makes the most sense, is that Black Label's rank starts lower and ends higher, and it increments faster because you get more hypers over the course of the game.
Right, your hyper rank builds up super fast, and
Yeah.
that eventually influences everything in the game.
Yeah.
As long as you remain alive, of course.
But then in White Label, what you have is it starts higher, it caps slightly lower, but the base game difficulty feels much higher because the base rank is so much harder, and a lot of the patterns are also significantly elevated. Actually, let me just go back to the stage 1 boss just so I can even like show that. You can stay at 1359, and I'll pop back there in a second. But just like to compare this pattern to what we were seeing in the Black Label run, it's much denser and it's much faster. You know, these. Oh, he's even hypering it. But yeah, this is like brutal, and it's stage 1. So. And yes, as Jammers is saying in chat, Black Label has much more slowdown than White Label does, especially in Stage 5 and places like the Stage 2 boss.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to nerf the stage 2 boss and buff the stage 3 boss. Like, they made the hardest part in the first loop even harder.
Yeah.
Just because they wanted to do that for some reason.
This attack here has no slowdown at all in White Label. You basically can't even see it because Iconoclast kills it so fast. But it has no slowdown at all in White Label. It has tons of slowdown in Black. Anyway, let's... where are we?
The small
13,
trick for the
15.
stage 2 boss's final attack is you can make it easier on yourself by kind of streaming in one direction and only looking at the bullets ahead of you and not like worrying about going back and forth. So if you give yourself room to do that, that makes it a bit easier.
Alright. So, are you queued up?
Yeah, ready to go?
Alright. Then 3, 2, 1, go. So I mean, it outwardly looks very, very similar, but some of these bullet lines are longer and thicker than what you'd see in Black Label at this point in time, which is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, keep in mind, guys, to keep the episode under 2 hours.
Yeah, I got it.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. So, are there any major changes in the scoring route in White Label and Black Label for this stage?
For
Besides
this stage, not that I know of. I could be mistaken about that, but my understanding is that the most significant score changes in White Label and Black Label come in Stage 3 and Stage 1. In general, you just get more hypers in BL, so a lot of the stages will have different timings and different position for a lot of the routing.
Right.
But the basic concept is the same on Stage 5.
So we hypered here. The Black Label run didn't do that, right? Can you read me?
He hypered around the same point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Because you get a hyper back in time to do the scoring trick anyway.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't watched this run through yet. This is by Iconoclast, by the way. This is now Iconoclast White Label run for those who are not aware.
Our resident, really good at shmups player.
Yeah.
He has a mind-blowing run of Crimson Clover Arcade Original.
Just to put it in perspective, this is the first time that anyone outside of Japan has cleared 2-alt White Label that we know of. So truly remarkable run.
Wow, is that really true?
He's going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As best I
Nice.
know, nobody outside of Japan has cleared White Label except for Iconoclast at this point in time.
So when did he get this run?
Not long ago at all. Just a couple weeks, if I remember correctly. It was very recent.
Congrats
It's
to
kind
him,
of
though.
cool. There's just been a lot of DOJ hype on the forum recently, between the Washui restream, Kagar 2-alt a while ago, and Kagar, you're welcome to share some of your experiences with that if you want. I know
Yeah.
Jamers
Tell us about why you like
played it.
Dojo so much.
I know Jamers played it or is playing it.
He has a tool in Black Label. That's
Yeah.
a low scoring run. I believe that's yes.
And then Iconoclast did this, so it's been crazy. There you see what we're talking about with the fireballs not despawning, but he was in a pretty good position and the popcorn came in a good arrangement, so he was able to chain through.
Can we talk about how awesome the arranged soundtrack is for this stage?
Can we talk about how awesome the arranged soundtrack is?
Yeah.
Just in
Can
general?
the viewers even hear it?
Yeah, I mean, people can probably hear it a little bit. Here, I'll bump it up a little.
It's a crazy guitar solo.
It's
Going on forever.
fantastic. The stage 4 is also pretty great. It has like a 5-minute guitar solo, if I remember correctly. Just like continuous. Yeah,
Is this meant to be Namiki's work as well, or did someone else produce this?
you know, I'm actually not sure. I can look that up.
Cool. So he had to do some pretty scary dodges during that section with the tanks and the medium flyers because he left some of them alive and they forced him through the bullets to the right side of the screen. But he did alright. You can do that part safer than he did, is all. Okay, and we're at the end of the stage. It's an impressive 3,000 hit chain.
I don't even have artist information for the arrange OST, so I have to look that up.
So, on White Label, one of the differences with this boss is that his second attack is randomly incredibly scary on the first hit. Like, there's some randomization to what blue spirals you get, and the randomization is more erratic, basically, in White Label than in Black Label.
That was an interesting hyper.
Yeah, he did this pattern in a really weird way. Like, I'm not sure why he didn't do the super player like back and forth route. Maybe it doesn't work in white label.
I'm not sure. I thought it did.
Yeah, I thought
It's
it
a
did too.
very hard pattern, but
Well, it's only hard if you can't do the safe route.
yeah.
Then it's pretty tricky.
Yeah, the tricky thing about that in the first loop is that if you don't do the safe route, it basically aims ahead of your position with the lasers. So you
Yeah,
have to
the
kind of
lasers
lead
are a
it
bit
in a
one-time.
direction.
Oh shit, he ran into the boss. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
that's on purpose. That's
Yeah,
on purpose.
he's suiciding intentionally in order to get hypers, build hypermeter and get hyper to prep himself for the loop.
And the reason why is because you lose your lives and your bombs, so you lose the bomb maximum bonus anyway, but you
Yeah.
keep your hypers, right?
Yeah. And if he dies in the next stage, then the run is over. So he has to come into it set up well enough that he can survive.
Yes,
and remember
notice how he
we
has
were-
no extents.
Yeah.
Welcome to white label. You can just die instantly here.
Yeah, and it's also insanely brutal from the get-go.
And is it loop 2 white label where you can't even continue, or is it just on the true latest boss?
Oh god, I don't even know.
I know, like, if you die on Hibachi in white label, you can't even continue, it's just game over. But I'm not sure if that also extends to the rest of the second loop. So he was AORing and point blanking parts of the mid-boss here, just for a little bit more hits.
Yeah.
You do that at the start of white label without a hyper too.
Yeah.
It's just like a mini version of what you do in black label, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And in white label, the drop is completely different. The earliest hyper that you can get is shortly after that mid boss.
Yes.
I've seen one run that did it beforehand, but it was
Really?
Yeah, it was a really.
So it's like a
interesting
TAS
one.
thing?
I don't know if it was TAS or it was different. Let's just put it that way.
I need to see a replay of that, because I didn't know that was possible. So all the bullets in this part look faster than they did in black label. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that is correct. Oh, you can continue it all in second loop white label. Wow,
Wow.
that is so brutal.
Dude, imagine being the arcade player who had to learn everything in second loop with no continue.
Oh man, that's so evil. I just
K,
so evil.
K makes you work hard for these 2 holes. That's all I can say.
So the main goal in white label stage 2-1 is going to be just to build up enough resources to essentially quick kill this boss because he's a monster.
Another thing worth noting is that even though he died a lot leading into the second loop, which would have removed all his hyper rank, it's still really fast. So that just shows you how much harder white label is right now.
And there, did you notice that he was using shot to delay the hyper charge long enough
Oh,
so
is
that
that
he
why he
would get
did
the
it?
hyper when the bombing attack came,
That is
so that he could
clever.
cancel the bullets.
I love
Fucking
that
awesome.
Get fucked, stage 1 loss. No one wants to deal with you in white level.
And now he has an extent. So
Because he no missed and no bombed the
Yeah.
stage. Or it's if you do one of them, then you get the
it's
extent,
if you
right?
one or the other, yeah.
Yeah. If he died, he just needed to not bomb. Well, he had no lives, so, but that applies to later stages.
But yeah, that cancel was pretty awesome. That's the kind of thing we were talking about earlier, how you can actually time your hyper builds as a cancel. So there, basically by using shot instead of laser, he slowed down the rate at which hyper was building up just long enough to put it on top of the bomb pattern.
So like in Black Label, because the chain meter goes down slower, he can do lazier routing and quick kill the tanks,
Yep.
so they don't have to shoot at him at all.
Which of course is much
It's a
safer.
nice bonus. Yeah, much safer. And as you can see, he still has a full chain, so...
Ooh,
And
that
he,
around the world dodge there.
The AR at the boss a little, didn't he?
Yeah. that's fun.
If you could assign like a difficulty to white label versus black label, like how much harder do you think white label is? Like first loop and then like a 2-all, like a percentage wise. Maybe throw out a number.
There's an official online chart that the Japanese maintain of like the difficulty of different games like ranked against each other, and White Label 1-all was like I want to say 20 or 30 places above the L2-all. Excuse me, White Label 2-all was like 20 or 30 places above the L2-all.
Yeah, they put Black Label 2-all as one of the hardest things you can... White Label 2-all as one of the hardest things you can do.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's
2 or
like top
3 on the
5 or
list.
something, top 3.
Yeah, trap official. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty interesting chart just to see what people have to say about it. I mean, it's the closest thing that this hobby has to an official difficulty list. Let's put it that way. Oh, it's at the very top. It's number 1.
Yeah, it's
I think it's like
with,
3. Yeah, I think it's number
It's tied
3.
with Futari Ultra 1.01. That's how hard I think it is. And well, it is about that hard, so.
Yeah, the
And
one that clears aren't that different.
Alright, stage
So
2 boss.
here he's hypering, and like I mentioned earlier, this can actually be helpful. That was interesting though. This bombing.
Oh,
And
here's a
he's
really cool safe spot.
Yeah.
You lure the fire upwards, but the bullets come out above you. And then you just quick kill it. Nice. That's another boss with absolutely insane patterns that you just cheese, because this is white level, and we need to do it.
Yeah.
Like, the bullets just come out as like a torrential splurge in that last attack.
Yeah, it's awful.
Incredibly difficult.
And I mean, looking at just how much of the screen is filled up already, and how fast some of these patterns are coming in, it's terrifying. Oh man. Oh. I just realized that the STG logo got turned off a couple minutes ago. My bad. I'm sorry, guys. Whoops. I think he missed a
Oh,
B
he just
there.
missed a beat, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional or not.
It doesn't really matter at this stage in the game. I mean, it's not insignificant, but I have to wonder if it was intentional though. Yeah, I'm wondering if he might be. Maybe he was delaying a hyper because he just activated a hyper here. If he picked up that B, he would have just dropped the hyper, which would have been burned because of his
Oh
activation.
shit!
Eek.
Damn.
My guess is that
So
was
now he
actually
needs to
intentional.
no-bomb the rest of the stage portion to get his extend
Yes.
this stage. Which, I mean, doable, but pretty tense.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very.
Whoa. Okay,
He's-
this isn't too bad. You can stream it, thankfully. If it was random orientation, it would be insane.
And
Oh,
this is-
safe spot.
I love this safe spot. It's hilarious.
Is this a white label only safe spot, or does it
It
work in
works
black
in,
label?
it works in Black Label as well. The thing you have to watch out for is the last couple popcorn will shoot directly at you, and they will hit you even if you're in the safe spot.
That's a really cool safe spot, because I thought that part was RNG dependent, like how the popcorn chips suicide at you.
It could be, but I have,
It doesn't matter, there's just no angle that hits you.
as far as I know,
Pretty interesting that even works. Huh? Well, I mean, if you like that safe spot, we're gonna see some pretty insane safe spots soon. Hint, hint.
yeah,
Whoa! He just barely avoided getting hit by that battle station there. Like the
Yeah.
blue sweeping bullets. They
I'm
like
gonna wonder-
feel like luck to dodge, but if you go right in the middle, they won't miss you.
Now that was interesting. He let that bomb roll off the edge of the screen. I think that was probably a survival maneuver in case he had to bomb during that section, so that he would have been able to pick it up and recover.
Alright, here's the safe spot.
Yeah, off center.
Slightly
Like
off
you were
center
saying.
and everything.
Yeah.
So you just have to learn a new safe spot. I'm sure Cable's like, we're so smart, we're gonna stop them from using a safe spot, and he just failed. Yeah, he missed some more of these, so he must not care about them anymore.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because it's still a first for West. Alright, stage 3 boss, and now he's even harder, if you can imagine it.
Ah, Jamers is saying normally you want a suicide in 2-3, so you get extra bombs for 2-4.
Oh, was the suicide on purpose then?
It
or
may have-
was it just convenience?
It may have been. That's really interesting. I
Like,
would not have
does it
expected
just mean
that.
you can die somewhere and it doesn't matter, or like you don't have to go for it, just if you mess up it's okay? Is that the idea? Ooh, nice dodging there.
Sure.
I'm assuming that's what happened, because that seemed a little accidental to me.
Yeah, it seemed accidental. But, like, maybe it was just okay. Yeah.
So that was some pretty
good
dodging,
guy, like I
but
was saying.
now the final attack is here.
Ah, and Jamers is saying if you don't pick up the bomb, then a hyper item will drop during the boss last phase since you don't have a bomb. Yeah, except that he does have a bomb, which is why it was weird that he didn't pick it up. That was my confusion there. Maybe his route just is used to not picking it up. I'm not sure.
So even though he hypered that pattern, he still had to dodge a fair amount of it at the hyper speed. So he dodged very impressively there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good job.
Iconoclast, so godlike.
By the way, a random thing about this game is the way the RNG works, it's kind of dependent on how you've moved recently and how much laser you've fired recently, because that advances the RNG, the little laser pellets coming off of it. So if you have a save state right before a boss's pattern, then you can use your laser differently to get new patterns, and if you've started to see them all already, then you can make a new save state, just so you're not practicing the same thing over and over without realizing it.
Oh, okay.
Just a quick thing about save state practice in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the DOJ series, not DOJ series, DNP series is an interestingly conducive series for in terms of save state practice. Like just the number of things that have to be kind of finessed and routed and planned for. I'm not necessarily advocating save state practice because I know that there's people who aren't necessarily interested in that.
Use those fucking save
Kempop.
I don't care what Kempop thinks, use those fucking save states. But when you save state practice, every so often do the full stage as well. Like,
Yeah.
if you're like hyper focusing too much, you'll like forget how to change into the rest of the stage. So you need to have a balance. But definitely use those save states, definitely copy those super plays, use every trick you can think of. Yeah, pretty much.
And this is a game where you should take advantage of the huge amount of resources that are available for it. There's lots of replays. There's lots of excellent strategy advice available. So definitely, make note of that and make use of it when you're planning and executing your runs, because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. If there's already a way to solve a pattern, why waste energy trying to come up with a new solution?
And just looking at a replay, you're only seeing the final product. You can kind of try to mimic it, but you don't know what things are important and what things are not. So
you'll learn.
You can always feel
why
free to
as you
come talk to
try.
one of us. Like, just go onto the Shmups IRC and say, hey, I'm having trouble with X.
Yeah.
Anyone know a good solution? And anyone who knows the game will be happy to help you. Can you unplug the Shmups IRC?
Yeah, I can. Actually, maybe someone else can check.
I got it. The Shmups IRC is hashtag SHMUPS on FNet IRC, that's EFNet. So that's where all the Western Shmup players hang out, basically.
Yeah, and definitely don't be afraid to come onto the forum
Yep.
and ask questions for strategy. And ProMeTheus has an excellent guide for this game, and there's an awesome strategy thread, which is still relatively active from what I can see.
Yes, you have plenty of resources. Like speedrunners, and I'm sure Shmup players too, the thing they love the most is other people getting into a game and trying to compete. Because it's just so much fun to share strategies. Like, just sharing strategies, you might learn something too, even if you are a more knowledgeable player. Like, there's always something you've missed, and that will improve your consistency at something.
Yeah, case in point, the DFK discussions that have been taking place just the last 24 hours or so. Imuser and Obscura were in an argument about how to get the Ura loop condition for the start of DFK 1.5.
Right.
And Imuser was able to find out some of the conditions for doing that, which until now nobody had ever actually bothered to look up. And there's
Wait,
a lot of
new
really,
conditions besides
Yeah.
just the silos and stuff?
No, it is the silos, but it's what specifically about the silos.
Huh?
So it's pretty interesting stuff. Go check out. There's a whole thread on the forum about it.
Okay, I'll have to look later. And I just want to say for this boss, he was lucky to get the correct options pattern from the boss, because he hypered early to cheese some of the earlier patterns that were completely insane. So he managed to do the hyper trick partially, even though he was using hyper for survival there. He cheesed the boss very well.
And also the length of these lines. I mean, look
Yeah,
at
the bullets are getting really, really fast.
Yeah, and just like you have popcorn tanks that are shooting lines that are the entire width of the screen.
And the rank was even reduced when he died in
Yeah.
stage 2-3, and it's still crazy, so white level's just that much harder. Like,
But-
you can imagine a no-miss run with a ton of hypers, it'd be going even faster, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
And again, theoretically, Black Label has higher rank because it doesn't cap as early from my understanding, but in practice, White Label is basically always going to be harder. And I'm not quite sure how that ends up working out. But it's interesting to take note of.
So these attacks are just incredibly fast and rapid right now.
Yeah, wow.
Like, you have to time all those dodges
And
up the
now,
screen
Honeycomb
so you don't get caught in.
Sanity.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be so fast.
Oh, these quick kills on the bees.
Yeah, the
coming
quick
out.
kill made it not shoot, that was handy.
So that's just aura again. You don't have to be hypering to aura. It always works, but hypering
Yep.
more aura does more damage. So
And it gives you more
it
hyper
gives you
meter
more
as well.
hyper. Yeah.
It's generally amazing.
Yeah, he goes for the quick kill here. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
if you
No,
actually
no
went for
scoring
that-
trick today.
This is so tense. Yeah, and this pattern's like even less organized now. But because he was auraing it with hyper for so long, he did a ton of damage to it right away. Ooh!
Oh shit, no.
Still got 3
And it
stars.
wasn't invincible while it was scrolling on, that's why it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kinda like looks kind of invincible, but it's not. Alright, that's interesting.
Yeah, as far as I know, nothing in DOJ is invincible while it's crawling on, only while it's crawling off. The exception to that is when the hitboxes are projected on. By that I mean, like, if there's an enemy that's slightly off the top edge of the screen, its hitbox will be on the top of the screen, even though it's not actually visible yet.
Okay.
For a few frames beforehand, and I think that during that period of time, they're not actually vulnerable.
Okay, interesting. But not everything projects its hitbox. Like, some things you can try and chain on, and you just don't exist yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the turrets at the start of stage 1, 2, in the top left corner, you have to delay it a bit. Even though they look like they're on screen, you can't actually hit them with your laser and keep your combo yet. And there's like a tank in stage 1
Going in.
that does the same thing.
Huh. Oh yeah, and that's the other fun thing. You can maintain chain through death, and that's something that not a lot of people know about Dai Ou Jou.
That's white label exclusive, right?
I'm not 100% sure, but I've only seen it done in White Label. Basically, what happens is it just doesn't reset your chain counter after you die. So if you respawn and immediately start killing things again before your chain counter has time to drop down, your chain meter, I should say, your hits will still keep building. It'll still keep up the same chain. It doesn't reset when you die. Things are invincible scrolling in. Alright, my bad then.
What was that?
Things are invincible while scrolling in.
Oh, okay. Like every other cave game, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't think they've never not used that trick. Like, it's funny when you play a shmup that doesn't have invincibility when things are scrolling in, and like, you just make everything die instantly.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see why they do it like that. Like, it kind of forces the stage to work in its intended purpose, even if you're overpowered or
And here
know where
comes
everything
insanity.
is. Yep. So again, you can just kind of wiggle in this small piece of room, and then this attack is completely nuts.
Wow.
And again, on white level, it's randomized more aggressively. So randomly, you'll get some super impossible pattern.
Wow.
Yeah. Dang, dude, I don't know how he does that. I just can't come up with anything consistent for that pattern.
One fun note about these kind of rapid curtains that come down, you can actually micro between them even when they're very tight together. You just have to tap ever so slightly to the side.
Yeah, I used that before, but one time it killed me after
Yeah.
doing it like 20 times, so
It's not-
I've sworn off of it
It's
now.
not 100% consistent, and you almost never see players using it in...
because it's not safe.
yeah.
Just randomly die and you'll just feel like shit because you didn't have to do that anyway. Alright, so here we see the really easy way to do this pan. Just inch forward and
Yeah.
nothing hits you. It's really funny. I don't
And-
know how Cave missed that one.
Because you're point blanking it,
Yeah,
it
and
kills
point
it so
blanking.
fast. Ooh, Jesus!
Oh, shit.
Those needles just out of nowhere. Everyone hates the
Iconoclast.
needles. Everyone hates the needles.
Dude, fuck that attack.
Yes.
Dude, that attack is in YGS 2000, like the bullet
Yeah.
pattern simulator program, and it's like the dumbest pattern because, like,
I
when
was-
you're 12 years old, it's just like, wow, this is stupid.
I was
no one
just
can do this
raving about
pattern.
YGS 2K the other day. Yeah, very, very fun way to try out some of these patterns.
Oh,
It has patterns from DOJ, Mushi,
Mushi, yeah.
Mushi Ultra, Ketsui. Yeah, as you're seeing here, it's like in White Label, the pattern is no different. It's just fucking washing machine.
Well, some of the bullets are large instead of small. Like the blue
Yeah.
bullets are slightly different, but
Yeah.
it's basically the same insanity. Like,
And now
this
he's
is a
gotta get the
retrospect.
hyper it, get right on top.
Oh, yeah! With no extends left, no bombs left, no hypers left. Fucking clutch it out. I guess that's the only way you're gonna get your first 2 all though. It's just so tight on everything that you're
Yeah.
not gonna like randomly get a really good run. You're just barely gonna get it.
And Hibachi is substantially more difficult than White Label, as Jamers is saying. And I'm not, I haven't fought it myself, so my understanding of it is that a lot of that difficulty comes from the ridiculousness of getting there with enough resources to do it well. And the other part of the difficulty is just the boss fight itself is way the hell harder. So, are there questions from chat about Dai Ou Jou right now before we very briefly pop on over to Death Label as a treat to end the episode? Yeah, that was an awesome run. Iconoclast, you're god. Yeah. I don't know if he's watching right now. I don't think he is, which is sad. I messaged him about the episode. I was hoping he'd be able to come on. He said he didn't want to do commentary, but I was hoping he'd be able to be in the chat for it. Anyway. Yeah, please chat questions before we move into Death Label. Trap.
So Trap
Why
says,
does everyone
my
like
question,
this bad
why
game?"
does everyone like this bad game?
Well, I just want to quickly say that every quality you can think of in Battle Gorega, that's like why people love it and why people rave about it. I like Dai Ou Jou because it's exactly the opposite of all of that. So that's just my tastes are going to be different.
So you would say Dai Ou Jou is my anti-Gorega.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Nice. Patashu.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that. There's a certain kind of prescribed nature to DOJ that you don't really get as much with Rising is much more about improvisation and I guess incremental improvement and like manipulating all these secret behind the scenes mechanics, whereas DOJ is much more in your face. It's very obvious about what it wants you to do and how it wants you to do it. You have chains and you have this giant meter that tells you how many chains you have, and you have a hyper, and when you hyper, things die faster and you get more points. It's very forward, I guess, and it's much more memo heavy and much more about consistency of execution. So I can see that point, yeah.
One of the cool things about shmups in that you'd think it would be a small design space, like having a ship, having fixed movement, having bullets everywhere, that there'd only be so many kinds of games that you could make. But shmups have such like a wide diversity of ways that they can make the player have to tackle them. Like in terms of are the bullets fast or slow? Is your hitbox big or small? Is there like a weird power-up system, or does it not matter? Are there secrets? Is there a multiplier score system? And every game gives you different stuff to learn, but you're still getting better at shmups to play all these other shmups.
Yeah. Well, okay. It looks like there's not a lot of questions from chat. In fact, I'm not seeing any right now, except just people saying Dodonpachi is garbage, DOJ is garbage, da 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 da. So with that, let's move on to the Death Label.
Alright.
So I've linked in the chat Mon's interview, and also Sapphire Densetsu put in a white label with Lao Senin and Clover Tack. So guys, read those. And that was done by Black Oak.
Yeah, Black Oak's awesome.
Okay, can we do a quick introduction for Death Label? This is a special
Yes.
mode in the PS2 version, right? And it's
Yes.
actually a 2-loop mode. The first loop, it gives you bombs and hypers and all that kinds of stuff, so you can practice these incredibly hard bosses. because there's no save states, right?
Yes.
To learn these, it kind of gives you resources, and you just kind of have to get to where you want to practice and do it. So it's very unfair and unforgiving, even just practicing it. And then the second loop, you're kind of on your own. You get your bombs back every boss, but I think it refills your lives, but that's it. Oh wait, is there no lives in second loop? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's no lives in the second loop. It takes away everything.
Right, it's like...
And you can't get them back.
Because it's...
You just have to
It's
know
the white
this.
level mentality.
It's pure insanity. I mean, the patterns that you're going to see are...
Yeah.
I believe the starting difficulty is higher than Loop 2 difficulty of White Label.
Yeah, it's every meter and rank has been maxed out, and you're like constantly hyperspeed, I'm pretty sure. And this is basically the highest of the highest level play, because even doing an attempt at the actual hard part, the second loop, you have to go through the first loop again every time you die. So,
and
this is for...
This is played by MON or Mon. I'm not sure how he cares about it being pronounced. Amazing super player. I don't know what else he's done other than this, but I know that this took him like 7 years of play, and Cave was amazed. And the interview that Frenetic was linking is actually an interview with Cave where they're like, wow, somebody actually beat this.
That sounds about right.
So my understanding was that they put it in there as just like a throwaway thing, like nobody's ever gonna actually be able to do it.
They didn't want anyone to beat it. It's entirely hostile to the concept of being beaten.
Yeah, and then immediately, not too long after Mon did it, I think SWY did it. Someone else did.
SWY sounds right. Yeah, his videos are on YouTube somewhere. I've seen it linked before.
And they used basically the exact same strategies. And my understanding of the Death Label Clear is that it's the culmination of like literally 7 or 8 years of work between a group of players, all of them discussing like routes and strategies and safe spots. Tame is saying all kinds of other stuff. So it's there's all of it was a group project, was my understanding, and Mon is just the only person who actually managed to pull it off. So.
And it'll seem like he'll use like cheesy kinds of strategies a lot, but it's really the only way you can get an edge and actually have a chance to beat it. If you try to do it just naturally, there's zero chance.
Airpo, I have no idea why I say SWI. It's the first name that comes to mind when I think of this for some reason other than Mon. So my bad. Anyway, with that, if we're all queued up, should we start?
Yep. Sure.
All right. 3, 2, 1, click.
So this is the this is added in post, I think.
Yeah, this is added in post. It's a little introduction. Wait, he cleared it with A and B? What?
Wait, Mon has cleared it twice?
No, he's saying Tame did. What? If there's a replay of that, I need to see it. Oh, man.
We all need to be throwing these links in the description, won't we?
Yeah, I'll definitely pop them in for the YouTube.
Yeah, HFD's run, maybe someone doing the white label, one for each chain, all the death label replays we can find, stuff like that.
Shinu ga yoi. Oh.
So, just to remind everyone, he just had to do the first loop of Death Label to even get this far. Notice he's already got a score and everything. So every time he wants to attempt this, he has to do the first loop again, and he has no lives. He has... Whoa. So this is a safe spot. He can't die here. And he's pushing against the corner because that shrinks his hitbox. I think. This is the kind of game where moving around shrinks your hitbox, right?
I'm not actually 100% sure there.
I know Cave does it sometimes. That's probably why he does it.
I do know that there's some really funky safe spots against different patterns here.
So you can see the absolute brutal difficulty if you just crank every rank meter up to the maximum. Like, I don't think they actually have to code much extra to make Death Label. They just
yeah, I think they
turn
just
like
set...
standard rank up to max, hyper rank up to max, made it so you're always considered to be hyper rank, stuff like that, and you just get this. Maybe they had to tweak a few extra meters, but it probably wasn't that much overall because they already had the rank tied into everything.
So I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this already, but yeah, for those who haven't, it's just amazing. And
Here's another beautiful safe spot.
These safe spots are insane, and they only work in this mode, from what I understand. Like if you try that in a real run, first of all, it's just pointless because the patterns aren't.
I think the
difficult
RNG is fixed for every boss. Like they probably set the memory to certain values to get like the rank and stuff, and that probably sets the RNG as a side effect. I assume that's why all the safe spots work anyway, because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. So here's the top of the boss safe spot again. Just go above and all the bullets miss. And here's the absolute insanity of this attack at the highest rank. It's bullets spewing everywhere. Doesn't even try to dodge it, and really you shouldn't. It's too random, too fast.
Elixir, what we're talking about is the first loop of Death Label, not the first loop of Dai Ou Jou. Just be careful you don't get those two things confused.
Again, first loop and second loop of Death Label are the same, except in the first loop you have lives and you have hypers. So basically, it's a practice mode for the real thing. And it's also a barrier to doing Death Label properly, because every time you want to do another attempt, you have to sit through first loop and, you know, all that. So it's very much there kind of to make it possible, period, but also just to, like, make it very clear that this is, like, hostile to being beaten. Like, this is all we're giving you, good luck. So this is really cool at the maximum rank. Like, if you thought it was crazy before, it's even worse now.
Yeah, I mean... It's outright genocidal.
All the pilots will be throwing into the grinder.
It's I mean, it's such an interesting mode because it makes absolutely no illusions as to being anything else. I mean, it's called.
So if
Death
you thought this
Label.
pattern was hard in the real game, it's just terrible here. Like, you have to line yourself up with the gaps in the blue spirals so far ahead of time because they're moving so fast.
Oh yeah, and Jamers is bombs restore boss health.
The laser
So-
bomb restores boss health. The shot bomb just keeps it even, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it restores it, but it restores it slowly enough that if you're also damaging it, it washes out. But
So if you use the laser bomb by mistake, you're basically dead.
yes,
And you have
it's,
to point blank during every bomb and so on.
it's a very significant jump too. So.
So here's probably the coolest safe spot, because you just line yourself up here and everything misses.
It's
And again, this only works because the RNG is fixed, I'm pretty sure.
these patterns though. Oh my god.
Oh god, this attack. Oh good, he's bombing it.
Yeah, Enigma Swords, the normal bombs do restore health, but they restore it at such a low rate compared to the laser bomb that when you're attacking, it basically evens out and stays mostly constant, is what we were
Yeah,
saying.
that's how it works.
Whereas the laser bomb does, like, a lot more. It's... just don't do it.
No hyper trick, Kappa. I don't think it would even make the boss harder, but you don't have a hyper, so whatever.
I would be interested to know, actually, like, if you hypered, would it get harder? Would it get faster?
I think the rank on everything is already maxed out. I don't think it can even get harder. That's just my theory, though. I have never
Just a
played Death
couple
Label.
more shots.
Yeah, right. Ooh, nice. And again, no extend. If you make one mistake, it's back to the start of loop 1 with you.
Oh dear.
And here's another safe spot, of course. It just nudged 1 pixel.
Yeah, it's
Pixel perfect.
so exacting.
Very nice. Oh god. Ugh. Okay, he has to be pre-planning those specific movements with the fixed RNG, because ours is so much confidence. Just stop right there, I know you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And this attack.
These are so fast.
I think this is a white label. This one. I don't know
Yeah.
what the even was.
Yeah, it's very close, I would think.
Oh, this one you don't have a. Oh, there we go. Didn't have a safe slot for the second one.
The chat.
What's the chat saying?
It's Kappa, 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 Franker Z combo breaker.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I've ruined the experience for everyone. Okay, doing that just there, I don't think that's. I think that's RNG now because you fought for so long that you would have perturbed the RNG. So he had to do that just by reading it, and you can see the point blank through that pattern again.
Yeah.
All right, double Hibachi.
Yeah.
This is like
That-
the one big change they make to Death Label.
Yeah.
This is
So I
absolute
heard you like
madness.
hibachis.
So he has a brand new attack set just for Death Label. And every attack is really stupid now.
The entire fact that this exists is really stupid.
Yeah, he had to time a hyper and write out a tiny gap there. And this attack is doubled up. And I have no idea how he knows how to dodge it. Like, it's so fast and there are so
Yeah.
many lasers. I don't know.
And this attack is the new one, right?
Yeah, this is the new one.
Yeah, which also looks brutal beyond
It's
belief.
really, really scary.
Yeah. And then double washing machine, because one
At least
wasn't
the
bad
washing
enough.
machine is simpler, but that isn't much of a help because you have no resources to waste. Ugh.
The fact that he's actually dodging this, like, what is happening? And then he's just like, yes.
That is the only valid reaction after 7 years of this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought that'd be fun to finish up with because it's completely insane.
I'm sure pretty much everyone on the internet has seen this, but they have no idea what it is or where it's from because it's uploaded in Japanese.
Yeah.
And now you know where it's from. It's Death Label. It's a 2-loop mode from the PS2 port. With
Yeah.
no continues, no lives in the second loop. Like, it is a nightmare. It's hostile in every way.
Yeah, and just like the reaction, like he just knew he was gonna get it. He's just like laughing, like it's so great. It's so great. So yeah, any questions from chat? Any? Let's start. Let's wind it down. We're nearing the 2-hour mark, so we gotta kind of pull this back. But yeah, I mean it's an amazing run, amazing accomplishment, and it's just completely insane, is what it is.
I'd like to note quickly that one thing we didn't see in either of those runs, but it's something you can do, is you can kind of design your routes through the game to leave stuff alive and let it go to the bottom of the screen, and it becomes invincible, and you can AR it for a ton of combo.
Yeah, we mentioned that a couple times, but it's worth noting that can be done with basically anything.
Yeah.
And in super high scoring replays like HFDs, you'll see it abused in quite a few areas which you would not normally expect.
Yeah, you can do it with buildings, you can do it with tanks, you saw it done with the B turrets.
Yeah, the buildings at the end of stage 2 and the bees and the honeycomb are kind of the main spots that you'll see it done commonly. But it's an interesting scoring technique. It's very high level for sure, because I mean you can do it at a lower level of play, but the amount of execution required to do those particular tricks, which are the most profitable, is pretty insane. So. Chirpy, I don't even know what that means. Let's see. Dai Ou Jou white label's like 30 to 50 on eBay. It depends. I mean, that's not wrong. But it depends on if you're asking for a complete copy with the Superplay DVD for white label or not. The complete copy with the Superplay DVD often goes for significantly higher. And yeah, the PS2 port is an excellent port of white label. It has what is arguably one of the best practice modes I've ever seen. It lets you fine-tune so many different aspects of the game. It lets you control the hyper rank, the current hyper meter, the current chain value, the current like start position in the stage, all kinds of really, really minute details, which is of course at massive odds to the Xbox 360 port, which has what is probably the worst practice mode of any game I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is unusable. Like, it's literally unusable.
Yeah.
You try to go to stage 1-5 in that practice mode on the X360 port, and guess what? You start off unpowered with no hypers, so you cannot practice anything. You can't even practice the survival route because you're so weak. It's like, totally...
Yeah.
You can't use it at all.
You can't do it. This is a region-locked 360 game. If you want to play it on 360, you do have to have a J360. It is actually a good port-ish.
There's one porting mistake that I noticed when I was playing that port, which is the stage 5. It starts kind of incorrectly. Like, it starts too late into the stage. Like, the tanks are already rolling on while you're still invincible.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, that's the only difference I noticed, though. And the practice mode being bad, but otherwise it's fine.